Carl, you now have the floor.
All right. Well, thank you, Janine, and we hope everyone is safe and healthy. I know it's kind of a crazy time for everybody. But in the room today, we got Tracy Fox, who's our Chief Revenue Officer, and also Jonathan Steenland, who's our Chief Information Security Officer as well. So we kind of changed up the plan today. So given the current state of our world, we wanted to focus on cybersecurity. We want to focus on some of the tools that you guys currently have and how to make sure you're using them more secure given the environment of everyone being remote. And then obviously at the end we'll tell you a little bit about Botdoc and I, just to tell you guys, the last 2 weeks have probably been the busiest we've ever been between banking, healthcare, even education. A lot of schools need to work with their students who are remote and healthcare as well. So it's been very busy, and we're going to also tell you here at the end how some other ICBA banks are using Botdoc. So with that said, what we want to do is kind of set the stage, because I think what everyone's talking about is obviously the coronavirus and how that's kind of stifled operations from the normal sense. But we kind of want to give you an idea of what's going on in cybersecurity. So I'm going to hand this next couple of slides over to Jonathan Steenland. So Jonathan's background, he was the former CISO at Fujitsu, has been in the security world for a long time. So we want to kind of, he kind of put these slides together for us.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. So, you know, most people have heard and recognize that cybersecurity is a big deal today, but they may not be aware of exactly how big of a deal it is. Some have actually stated that cybercrime is the greatest transfer of economic wealth in the history of the world. And it's estimated that it's going to cost $6 trillion annually by 2021, staggering numbers. Here's another very interesting fact, that cybercrime is now more profitable than the global trade of all major illegal drugs combined. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how big this issue is.
So needless to say, it's not going away.
It's not, and you know what? No one's immune to it. In fact, it's actually hitting home close to us, and unfortunately, hackers are absolutely taking advantage of all the chaos that's already going on in the world with the coronavirus, and it's estimated that because of that, the damages may actually double right now as we're going through coronavirus due to cybercrime. And, you know, in terms of hitting home, you may have heard of or actually been impacted by the recent announcement from Finastra, which has been hit with ransomware, and as a result has not only disrupted their ability to provide services and operations to their customers, but some of you on the phone may have been impacted by this as well. So we're seeing a lot of cascading effects from cybercrime in the midst of all this chaos, and it's unfortunate, but it's a reality of what we're dealing with today.
Yeah, I mean, this is like Christmas for hackers right now.
It is, yeah.
I mean, literally the entire world is digital, right? There's minimal human reaction or relationships. So yeah, it's like Christmas for cyber criminals. So that kind of sets a stage. So we've been involved in a lot of conversations with different state organizations for banking, and obviously a lot of our banking clients we've reached out to this week. Actually, a lot of them expanding their usage of Botdoc, but we really kind of wanted to just check in on them to see how they, how they were running operations. And this is kind of a conglomeration of a lot of that. And a lot of you probably resonate with all of this, but just put this slide together knowing that, we're all in this together. It's not just, excuse me, not just your individual bank. So, bottom line is every consumer is remote. Branches are closed to customers. What we're hearing is that a lot of them have appointment by appointment only, but a lot of the banks aren't getting anybody to make appointments, or very, very minimal. So loans are taking longer to close, closing documents, delays for signatures and collecting documents. Verification of employment is extremely extremely tough. And then, you know, even town clerks' offices for recording is a challenge. Title company connections, no notaries, especially if people are sick, or very much more challenging. We actually heard a lot of them are doing drive-up notaries, so they'll sign stuff online and then come by and literally drive up, have somebody come out and take an ID and do a notary for them. And then obviously, you know, the borrowers are sick. You can't do much with them unless it's 100% remote. And then obviously, you know, rate locks, having to push those out to the right. I know a lot of banks are eating that, you know, to help their customers out. So needless to say, our whole world has changed in banking, and it's not just you guys, it's not just you individually, it's everybody. Everyone's feeling the same pain. So what that's really forced us all to do is to look at the technology that we have, even with portals going down now, is looking at things like fax and e-fax, secure email, where the client has to, our customer has to log into something, and then really using those encrypted email services that you guys have. A lot of you guys either have an Outlook plugin where it encrypts the outgoing mail, and then obviously some portals to log into. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we know that this is happening, and given the current state of cybercrime, this is really bad. But we know that the customer needs convenience now more than ever. They're stressed. Kids aren't in school. They're missing sports, entire seasons of sports. Some you know, people's kids are seniors and they're missing their senior season of soccer, baseball, track. I mean, people are stressed. There's layoffs that are happening. Money's not moving as fast. So at the end of the day, community banking is built on relationships, and you want to make it so easy for your customer, especially now. So some of you, maybe not on this phone, but in general, are accepting stuff through just unsecured email. The reason this is bad, we hear this a lot. A lot of banks say, hey, well, you know, it's secure in my environment. Like my email's secure. But what you're not realizing is that when the consumer sends you something, if they're just sending it via normal email, it's not insecure in their environment, and all the routers and ports it gets routed through to get to you are not secure. And these are the opportunities of a lifetime for hackers. This is what they're doing. They know this. They know that the consumer says, oh, forget all this secure stuff. I'm just going to email it to you. We also know with texting, that's very bad too, because we hear it, right? You need an ID, and the consumer says, oh my God, I don't have a scanner. Can I just text you a picture of my ID? And it happens, right? And then you've got an ID coming from, I don't have, looks like we got a question about okay, all right. So so a lot of operations, we see this happening, and it's just bad because texting is not secure, and it's on a personal device. Even if you have the person using something like WhatsApp or something else, you know, some other secure messaging tool, you have to take it off your personal device, email it to yourself, which all that means of moving that is not secure. So please, 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 really try and not push yourself to do this or push your customers. I know they're stressed and they're just going to say, hey, I just need the emails to you. I can't figure out how to log in to the system that you want me to use or whatever. But please try and not have your customers do this. Again, it's a cyber hacker's dream if you do. So this is really the challenge we see everyone having. We talk about it. We talk about it as the seesaw. You got security on one side of the seesaw, and you've got operations and convenience on the other side. And this is a continual battle. We can tell you every organization, not just community banks, but even up to some of our larger clients like Edward Jones and Ally Financial, and even some healthcare providers, like everyone struggles with this, and I know every bank does too, is you increase security, and some of you probably are frustrated with your IT people, right? Because they're always shoving secure solutions that everyone hates. You drive up security and that convenience factor goes down. And I know the IT people get frustrated with operations because they're like, oh my gosh, they keep doing unsecure stuff because the consumer wants convenience. So we see a lot of companies do this. And this is really, kind of, hey, you know what, just send me that email. It's fine this time. Or, hey, just text me a picture of it. It's okay. I'll PDF it on my end. Reducing security to increase those convenience factors. It happens across the board. It's because at the end of the day, one of the most important things is that consumer experience. So what we're going to do, what I wanted to talk about real quick is all of you are using today either fax, e-fax, secure email, portals, and encrypted email. So we wanted to kind of go through, this is where we're going to kind of change strategies. We're going to actually give you some tips for these tools that you can provide to your customers and maybe even to some internal staff to help your customers use these tools better and be more secure in this world. So the first one is kind of fax and e-fax. And I say no one has a fax, but there's always somebody that does, right? So obviously if they have a fax and you're accepting faxes, great. Some of the challenges obviously with fax, if you kind of put yourself in your consumer shoes, is if they have something digital, they either have to print it out or if they've got something that they can't scan, they either have to take a picture and figure out how to get it into like a fax or an e-fax. So the challenge, obviously, with any e-fax capability, if just kind of put your mindset in your client's perspective, is it costs money for them, and again, at a time where that's the last thing that they want to do. But even if they do have an e-fax or they decide to sign up for an e-fax account to fax you something, which again, fax is relatively secure, so that would be a good solution. Keep in mind that if they have something physical that they need to send you, a bank statement, a pay stub, a W-2, something they got in the mail, a letter, even an ID, they have to somehow scan it. And most people don't have scanners even anymore. So that means that they're probably going to take a picture of it with their phone, and then they need to ultimately email that to themselves, to their computer, and then convert it to a PDF, and then they'd have to set up an e-fax account and send it to you. So again, think about all the unsecured means of them just doing that, because now they've got a picture of their ID or that item on their phone. They've emailed it unsecurely to themselves, which even though it went from their phone to their computer, it's been routed through all those servers in cyberspace to get to their computer. So just kind of keep that in perspective, depending on what your client is doing. So the next one is a secure email and portal. So some of you guys use these where, hey, consumer, you can go and log into our portal or LOS or whatever, upload your documents. Or maybe some of you use secure email where it'll actually send out a link for them to actually log in, create an account, etc. So again, obviously there's friction with these. Keep in mind that you are the main tech support person for them. If you in operations or whatever are actually communicating with the consumer, you are going to be their tech support. So some recommended things that we suggest, and this is coming across the board from cybersecurity professionals everywhere, is that people go in and reset their passwords. So you may have to help your customers do that. And again, depending on the system that you're using, just be cognizant of, you may have to walk them through that. Another suggestion for in the cyber community right now is making sure that people are cleaning the cache out of their browsers, any saved data and cookies as well, all together or specific for some of the accounts that they may have with you for your portals or secure email. So I know that can be a challenging, and everyone uses different browsers. So what we're going to do is you guys are going to have access to this presentation later. So I know this is kind of just all lumped together. You don't need to read it right now, but these are things that you can actually copy and paste because you guys are going to have this presentation and actually send them out to your clients. So whether they're using Safari, Explorer, or Chrome, because those are the top three. We could have done a lot more, but I think less than this covers, I think, 98% or 99% of the world on the browsers that people use. So you guys will have this later when you download the presentation. We do encourage you to help your clients. Just make sure that they're safe. You know, at the end of the day, you are communicating with them back and forth with sensitive information. And although a compliance officer may say, well, you know, they decided to send it to you this way, or the consumer's information was breached on their end, if they're communicating with you in unsecured means or they get compromised in that way, I think the banking community has a responsibility for that, because you need to make sure that your consumers are working secure with you. And then lastly, there's other things like encrypted email. So this is very, very popular, I know, with a lot of banks, very unpopular with the consumer base, because a lot of people just don't know how to do it. Because when it comes out, this is where some solutions will auto encrypt an email if they sense that there's an account number or a social security number in the email, or it's a button that you hit in Outlook where it automatically encrypts it. A lot of times this goes to spam, so just be cognizant of that. If your consumer says, hey, I'm not getting it, a lot of times those do get pushed into spam. But we provided a link here that you guys, again, can send out to your consumers if you are working with them. So this is a video, an instructional video of how to, if you get an Outlook encrypted email from somebody and you're using Gmail or Yahoo or, you know, you list it, actually how to open up and read that email. So I think this is a very good instructional video that we found. So please feel free to use that or send it to your teams if you are using encrypted email, because I know I get them sometimes and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with this. Like, how do I read this? But it doesn't solve your full problem, because the consumer can't send you anything back through that channel. So you're going to just be cognizant of how do they get things back to you. So you're back to using fax, e-fax, or some kind of secure email or portal. So just be cognizant of that. So to summarize all this, what's happening is, because everyone's world has changed, everyone's world has changed, is all of this increase in security is really driving down convenience. We're making business much harder to do. And the conundrum is that it's in a time where we don't need complexity. We don't need challenge. We need convenience. The consumer needs convenience right now more than they ever have. And just to make this point, outside of coronavirus, so these are reports that were done last year, and I think the year before last. So you guys will have these links too in your in the presentation. We think this is pretty powerful. We talk about this a lot in our company. 89% of companies compete primarily on the basis of the consumer experience, and that's up 36% from 2010. And I would actually argue that it's probably even greater than that. I mean, think about Amazon. I'm sure everyone on this call today is using or has used Amazon in the last year. And I know everyone loves the fact that they can go on Amazon, click a button, and get it, and then have it delivered to your door, versus having to go out and fight crowds and find it, and know exactly when it's going to be delivered to your house. So that's become kind of the fact of the standard. And I think many of you, and I know myself, even if something's maybe a little bit more, if I get it on Amazon and it's a couple bucks more, like, I'm fine with that, because I know that I can expect that consistent experience. So this is the next piece that's very important. It says, while 80% of companies believe they deliver super experiences, only 8% of their customers agree. Only 8%. So 80% of the companies say, yeah, man, we're knocking it out of the park for our customers. Only 8% of their customers actually agree with that statement. So I know in community banking where that relationship is so important, I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind, because you may think, man, we're doing everything we can, and just know that this relationship happens all the time, where the institution says, man, we're really working hard for that consumer, but a lot of times the consumer does not agree with it, and a lot of times, in fact, in this article, they highlight is really the convenience factor. it's not convenient to do business with that customer. So just keep that in mind. So we're kind of at this conundrum, right? Because we've got the point in history where cybersecurity is needed the most and convenience is needed the most, and yet those two things don't coexist. So when we talk about this seesaw for Botdoc, this is what really gets us excited. This is what gets us out of bed in the morning, is the fact that given our technology, we were actually able to break this relationship. So we're using the highest levels of security available today with increasing the convenience factors for transporting data and documents back and forth. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to switch to a live screen share. We're going to pull off a demo for you so you can experience the technology yourselves. I know in webinars in the past, we've done this where, are you sharing your screen? Sure. Broadcast, there we go. All right, cool. Now I think that we are. Yep. Now, are you sharing your screen? Sure. Sorry, I think with some of the delays in since everyone is, sorry. Since the entire world is on screen shares, things are taking a little bit longer. Here we go. All right. Okay. All right. I think we are broadcasting now. Excellent. All right. So what we're going to do, this is our product. So we have a product version, a SaaS-based tool, and we also have an API. We won't talk about the API today, unless any of you are developers and want to build stuff into systems. So this tool, what we're going to do real quick, you have the ability to push and pull things in and out of the system securely, and it can be done via email or text. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a demo with Jonathan here in our office. He's going to send us something. Normally we would do somebody in the audience, but just being cognizant of PII with phone numbers, et cetera, and we're okay if Jonathan gets spammed, you know, after this. But so this is how you guys would potentially use, or this is how banks today use Botdoc. You're on the phone with Jonathan or somebody, and you say, hey, Jonathan, I just need your driver's license real quick, or, hey, oh, yeah, you have the bank statement in front of you. Yeah, and you can just take a picture of it real quick. Great. So this is how you would initiate a request. So Tracy's going to go ahead and hit request on that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, so obviously you guys can't see what on Jonathan's end, so we're going to actually kill the screen share real quick. And then we're going to go back to the picture here, kind of for those of you that are not on, obviously in front of Jonathan, you guys can see kind of the experience that he's having. So Jonathan received a text message. It says, you know, in this case, it says Tracy Fox, because Tracy did. Tracy Fox from Botdoc is requesting documents from you, and Jonathan got the text message. He obviously knows it's from Tracy because he's on the phone with them. So Jonathan is going to go ahead and click on the link, and it's going to open up a secure page. And it's very, very simple. So it has the message there that Jonathan can read. And again, he may even be on the phone. If a bank was using this, he may even be on the phone with the bank at the same time. So Jonathan's going to hit add file, and then he's going to get a couple of options that pop up on the bottom of his phone. So he's going to select the one that says use camera or take picture, just depending on whatever phone he has. And then it's going to automatically activate his camera on his phone, and then he's going to take a picture. So we're going to take a picture here real quick. All right, excellent. And then as soon as that's finished, it starts to secure that item. So it's secure. And then Jonathan, we won't have Jonathan do this today, but a lot of your customers use Dropbox or Google Drive, OneDrive, Cloud Drive, and I know a lot of times they try and send you stuff, those links. We hear that a lot. They say, hey, let me just send you a Dropbox folder. And as we know from the IT departments, that's a huge security risk. So a lot of institutions won't do that. But Jonathan can also hit add file, browse is the option that would pop up as well. instead of his camera, and then he could go over and grab a 5, 6, 7, 800 megabyte document off of his Dropbox account if he wanted to. But I know a lot of consumers live in that world, so it's very, very important. So we're not going to have Jonathan do that today, so he's just going to go ahead and hit send as soon as he gets the check mark there, and we're good. All right, and as soon as he hits send, he gets a confirmation page, and this page actually has the potential to have a picture from somebody at the bank on it with their phone number and email. So there's a consistent experience throughout the entire transaction that Jonathan knows that, hey, from the start to the finish, that he was working with this person at this bank. And this entire experience, the colors, the logo, etc., can actually be customized to the bank that you kill his feed here. And we're going to live screen share. So Tracy's received a couple of things. So he's received an email in his email inbox that says, "Hey Tracy, you've received a new Botdoc from this person," or if he's in his account, he gets a notification if he's got it up. So in this case, we know the phone number it came from, any message that the consumer sent back. Hey, there's a picture of us at Botdoc headquarters. Hanging out there. So that's Tracy and me. What Tracy can do, so let's say this was a picture of a driver's license, he could actually download the document as a PDF. Because I know in the business world, there's really not a lot of uses for a JPEG. You can actually download it as a PDF. And then we have a bunch of tracking information. So you, the bank, would know an IP address. Everything would be time and date stamped. So this is more for auditability down the road to know that, hey, this document came from this location at this time, et cetera. So it gives some visibility into that. So Tracy's going to go back to his dashboard. We won't do that today, but so all this is great. We have that item, but fundamentally, here's what happened between Jonathan and this system, whether he was 3 feet away or 3,000 miles away, was end-to-end encryption. And Jonathan, at no point in time, had to download an app or download any software. He just uses his phone that he's always used and the software that's already on it. And he never had to put in a PIN, a password. He didn't have to log into anything or create an account. So he's using the technology he's used to using all the time, and he didn't have to have anything new imposed on him. Also, very significantly, is that request that we sent Jonathan is a one-time use by design. It's no longer usable. So if he were to go back and click on that link in the email, in the text message, he wouldn't be able to use it anymore. So it's for a unique, specific purpose, a one-time disposable use by design. But also, from a cybersecurity perspective, the great thing is that picture that Jonathan took does not exist on his phone. So if he were to go into his photo camera history, it's no longer there. And in fact, our technology that actually picked it up from Jonathan and transported it to our SaaS-based tool has already overwritten and deleted it out of that transportation mechanism. So it only exists in one place in the entire planet, and that was in the system when Tracy pulled it up. So we're not creating residual copies, or we call them poisonous breadcrumbs for hackers to potentially pick up along the way. So what we're able to do today is reach out and grab something from Jonathan securely and pull it back into our environment, if we were at the bank or wherever, without imposing anything foreign upon Jonathan as our customer. So end-to-end encryption and extremely easy. So we have another feature, and this is probably one of our most used feature, hands down, with community banks, is each account holder of Botdoc has a unique URL that's specific to their account. And these URLs, they're being put in email signature blocks. We like to say they're replacing fax numbers, but you can see here Molly at Integrity Bank and Trust, she still has her fax number. We kind of say not many people have a fax, but everyone has access to the internet. So by using Botdoc, she puts here, click here to send me documents securely. So Integrity Bank and Trust, this is where you can send a normal unsecured email to your customer and say, hey, John, here's the 6 things I need, or here's the 2 things I need. I need your driver's license, I need this, Send them to me when you get them to me. what they're saying is, hey, Botdoc them to me. So they can actually click on this link in your email signature block, and they can initiate their own session and send you whatever they want, secure and encrypted to you. So this is a very widely used capability that's for our system. So again, whether the experience for your customer is mobile or if it's on their computer, it's the same concept. Whether they grab something off their desktop, off a Dropbox off their computer, or off of their phone. So at the end of the day, what Botdoc is it's no apps or software that download, no passwords, no PINs, no logins, and it's on demand for texting and for email. And it's in transit and at rest security for anybody in the that is in the security world. It's all TLS and AS256-bit encryption, and everything works in our environment, lives in Microsoft Azure, and nothing goes outside the country for any of our product stuff. We across the board, we have numerous ICBA banks using Botdoc, and even outside of banking, right? Even Barrett School of Banking uses as well. But don't take our word for it. So these are what some of the banks are saying from that use Botdoc. So this is Community Spirit Bank in Alabama. So before they were using, just like everybody else, using fax, secure email, some portals. Loan documentation would take over a week, sometimes longer, just depending on the client. A lot of times, hey, I need to reach out to the customer. Hey, John, here's the 5 things I need. And John says, hey, I'm driving. Yeah, I'll get to it tonight. You know what? You get home, kids, forget about it. They try and log into some kind of portal system, and they're like, gosh, I'm locked out. I can't remember my password. I'm not on the same computer, etc. So again, it was just putting the bank and customers in a bad situation. So after they started using Botdoc, document collections, and this is from them, they said it would take a day, or sometimes the same day they would get documents back, when normally it would take a week or so. So even copies of driver's license was easy via text, because the consumer could click on that link, take a picture of it, and send it back, and think no more about it. It was super easy. And one of the things that they told us is that all the technology they've ever used or onboarded, this was, and they used the word seriously, it was simple. It's made our document collection for loans very easy. Customers love it. And you'll see this theme with all of our clients, that they're closing loans 50% faster, with at least 50% faster with Botdoc, and that's across the board. Every bank and every customer we had has resonated that statement. So we'll go to the next one. Integrity of Bank and Trust, very, very similar. They were using a lot of secure email, encrypted email, very challenging. They said, hey, even fax, asking customers to use fax was kind of a non-starter for them. I can tell you this bank here in Colorado, that's where we're based here in Colorado, has actually said they don't even know why they have secure email anymore, because they literally don't use it now that they have Botdoc. And they resonated the same thing. Of course, they said exponentially faster. Try to put a value on that, but sometimes when it would take numerous weeks, and now things would come back much faster. And again, same statement: easily closing loans 50% faster with Botdoc. The next one is First Midwest in Missouri. Very, very similar. First Midwest actually used it also for a lot of compliance related items. I just saw a question that popped up. So we can't get official approval. So a question came up about FDIC and OCC, very related to this. So First Midwest actually uses this for their reports, and to the either the auditors or the examiners. So they would actually send things with Botdoc to these institutions, and the response was, although we can't, they can't give us a golden star or say, hey, everyone should be using Botdoc, is that they accept things through Botdoc. And I can tell you that First Midwest, this was Chris Highland there, he said what they actually started happening was even though, and the other one was the bond bank. So they did business with the bond bank, that they had the examiners, et cetera, FDIC, OCC. And they said even though that they also said, sorry, I'm jumping around here. They also said that because they had outsourced a lot of their underwriting for loans to a third party. And he said what was interesting is that he found, this is 5 or 6 different portals he always had to log into. And so he just started sending them via Botdoc. And they would take them and accept it. And he said what was funny is the people he worked with at those institutions, instead of using their own systems, they would actually reply back with Botdoc. So they were using their personal URLs to send them stuff back. And he said it was funny because he said they all had portals, but they ended up using Botdoc with me because it was even easier for them. So the question that did come up was, did the feds approve FDIC OCC usage for Botdoc? Although they don't approve it, they will accept things via Botdoc. So that was and very timely because that was resonated pretty heavily by First Midwest Bank. And again, at least 50% faster for their loans. And if anyone on here does want to talk with any of our clients, because we get that a lot, saying, hey, do you have a bank we can talk with? Any of these or additional ones that we have are more than happy to speak with anybody. And then MMP in Arkansas, same thing. They said Botdoc allows us to get responses in a day, from mortgages to insurance to working with auditors. So here's another one with auditors, and even bookkeeping with external bookkeepers, et cetera. And again, Botdoc has allowed them to get responses in a day and complete transactions at least 50% faster. So we're very proud of those. There's numerous other banks, and I can tell you over the last week, really, last week was one of our busiest weeks we've ever had, as far as responding to emails, phone calls, et cetera, getting banks set up, getting existing clients adding accounts. And that's not just the banks, right? It's ICBA as well. Obviously, we've had a relationship with Kevin and Charles through over the last year and a half or so. But I won't read this to you because they'll be in the presentation, but I can tell you that one of the biggest concerns from the ICBA's perspective is compliance, cybercrime, but also realizing that, hey, it's community banking, relationships are so important, and this is the most stressful time I think of that any of us will see in our lifetime, and the challenges between cybercrime and trying to be convenient for our customers. So to give you some information on pricing, it's $15 per user per month, $12 if you pay annually. There are some volume discounts at 50 and 100. And what we're doing for all ICBA banks is we're giving you 60 days free for up to 15 users, no contracts, anything. If you do want a year for users, we'll just credit you the value of that towards your annual discount. And then we do have a sales page set up. It's got some videos of us, not that you want to watch us talk, but it's got some of the testimonials as well, some information. And there's actually on this page, and this is a live hyperlink in the PDF when you download it, that you can actually go there and schedule an appointment with somebody from our team to either answer questions. We've had some banks that have actually went ahead and set up an account and then used that for some initial training for their admin. So we're flexible either way. But at the end of the day, we know that this is a super challenging time for all of us, and we're very grateful that we're at the right place at the right time to help a lot of banks out. I can tell you right now that we onboarded 2 banks yesterday. It took them about 5 minutes to set up an account with their admins and start inviting people. Some banks are paying by invoice, some banks are paying by credit card. Doesn't matter to us as soon as you get set up. And then onboarding, we book a 30-minute call. We can do onboarding with the entire team, and we also have onboarding videos that can be sent out to your team as well. Not necessarily onboarding, but really just kind of training. We book 30 minutes if you want to do a live one with us, with Wendy or one of our operations staff. But it usually takes about 15 minutes at most. We get the team set up and have them start Botdocking, and it's pretty quick. So this is really kind of our push to help you guys out, help ICBA banks out. It's a very low-cost solution that provides a big impact, and it's very, very secure. And for those from a compliance standpoint on the phone, you guys probably saw some of the compliance logos there. But just to reiterate, we've had our SOC 2 Type 2 completed. We are GDPR compliant, not that anybody's doing anything with European EU right now, but we are GDPR compliant. We are PCI compliant. We're also HIPAA compliant for medical, not that any of you doing medical things, but and then FERPA for education. We actually had a college a couple of days ago actually sign up for an account to start collecting financial aid information on their students since everybody's remote. So we're excited about that too. And then we're Privacy Shield certified for EU and Swiss. So we have a due diligence package that's about 118 pages long. And just to make everyone comfortable, we do have clients like Edward Jones, Ally Financial, Toyota Financial Services, and we think that's pretty important. So what I would like to show real quick, Tracy, if you want to go to the screen share real quick. So we are getting some questions about audit trails and some additional information. So go to we're going to show the product. So Tracy's going to share his screen real quick. So we do have audit trail availability. So what you're going to see here is Tracy's actually going to show, as an admin of the team, you have the ability not just to see the transactions and the IP addresses where things, you actually have the ability to see also where, you know, time and date stamp for everything. So Tracy on his screen here, he's an admin obviously for this account. So he can go in and see login activity. So he can actually see where his team, when and where they're logging in from. So all that information is stored in your account. And then you also have the ability to see transaction activity, not just for your account, but for all the accounts. So you can go through and audit all that information. And none of that information goes away. It's all in there. So, you know, emails, phone numbers, IP addresses, time and date stamped, whether the things are downloaded. And actually, Tracy, bring this up real quick. We get another question that popped up about our send capability. So we're going to pull up, do we have one that doesn't have any information on it?
All the prior information was for our team who has consented to use of this.
Do it there. I don't know. That one okay? Let's scroll up maybe a little bit. So anytime we actually, this is one thing that banks, we actually hear this a lot. I'm mad that we didn't put this in the presentation, but they said that when they send things, especially to auditors, or if they're sending things to third-party underwriters, because a lot of times when you send something, you don't know if they got it, and you don't know if they're even working it. So in this case, if you use Botdoc, you can actually see when it was sent. You can see if it was clicked on, if the item was actually downloaded or not. And if it was downloaded, you've got some information there. So a lot of times we have clients that will say, hey, gosh, they haven't downloaded it yet. So there's actually a resend, refresh option. So you can actually resend it. And then any of our pushes, they're only active for 14 days because you don't want it hanging out there forever. So you can see this one expired. It gives you when it expired, date and time. So that capability is also available. Now, one thing different from fax and other solutions is we do have a terminate button. So we can actually, when we push something out, and do we just want to push something out real quick because we have about 15 minutes left. That's fine. We don't have to push something out. Is that on like here? When we push something out, you actually have the ability to terminate it. So let's say you did fat finger something, either a phone number or an email, is you have the ability to actually kill it. And actually what's great about that is from a compliance aspect, is if it was not, even if it was clicked on, if it was not downloaded and you terminated the transaction, it's not a compliance issue because there was no exposure. to any sensitive information that you put in the push. So this is actually pushing something out. So Tracy's actually kind of walking you through to actually show that. And then he's going to take out the two-step. That's fine. So Tracy actually pushed that out, and we're just kind of showing you real quick just so we can kind of track it. And Tracy's actually sent it to himself. So he can see here that it was sent. And while Tracy's doing that, I know we got about 13 minutes or so left, and I know, Janine, if we want to, did we get some questions that haven't been answered yet? No, we're good. Okay.
Yeah, in fact, do you want to start those while we wait, or?
Yeah, we can, and then Tracy, he can kind of, we'll kind of show, because Tracy's sent it himself one, we can kind of show it here on the screen. Janine, if we want to go ahead and get some of the questions.
Yeah, first question is, how is your system set up so it's secure?
Yeah, so great question. So we have, we've been poked and, this is what I'll say, we've been poked and prodded and raked over the coals by major companies, like I said before, Edward Jones, Ally Financial, Citizens Bank, Toyota Financial Services, all their vendor management departments, all their cyber IT security departments. Also on our board of our company are some prominent individuals like the former CIO of Emerson, Steve Hassel, and some other cybersecurity professionals. So we've taken a lot of measures to make sure that that we're doing the right things and have the right mindset. And also Jonathan Steenland here, our Chief Innovation and Security Officer, you know, being the former CISO for Fujitsu, and then he was formerly at the National Cybersecurity Center as their Chief Operations Officer. So he brings a lot of insight and perspective on our team. But what I can tell you is that our entire environment is all TLS and AES 256-bit encryption, and it all lives in Microsoft Azure. All the keys, if this makes sense to anybody, all the encryption keys are automatically generated by the system. At the system level, we don't even know what the keys are because each transaction is uniquely encrypted. So, so I think, and again, everything being on Microsoft Azure, US Central, we do have a lot of redundancy in place for disasters, et cetera, to make sure that the service does stay up and running if something did happen. And then real quick, if you guys look at your screen, so Tracy, this is the one he sent himself real quick, as you guys saw. So we can see that he sent it. He did click on the text message and downloaded the item. So what we're going to do right now is just go ahead and terminate it. And then Tracy's going to go back into that text message and actually click on it and try and download it. And it's actually going to give him a message that says this session has been terminated or expired and can no longer be accessed. And if he refreshes, you'll actually see here that he did click on the link and access the site, but since it was done after the termination was done, nothing can be exposed after that point. So it gives you some visibility. Did this person even download it? Some of our clients say it almost makes them feel a little sneaky, right? Because they can see if somebody actually grabbed it or not, and sometimes they'll just hit the refresh functionality to resend it just as a little nudge or a little poke as a reminder that, hey, you should probably be working our platform. And then one thing I also want to mention is that for the banks that do want accounts is that the emails, if you send things out via email, that can be customized to your domain versus the Botdoc domain. And then, like I said, you can add logos, change the colors a little bit, so it makes it feel a little bit more like your bank and not a third-party tool. Any other questions, Janine, that came in?
Yeah. Next question is, how hard is it to set up and start using Botdoc?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the best quote that we had was from Community Services Bank. And they said it was seriously, they used the word seriously, was the easiest technology they've ever onboarded. So it's a SaaS-based tool that the people at the bank will have a login to, and it literally takes, we can get the admins up and running in about 5 minutes, and then we can either send out a quick training video, or we can do a group session with your team. Again, we set aside 30 minutes. It usually only takes about 15 minutes. But as you can see from Tracy using it, it's pretty intuitive once you get in there. You can either pull something or push something, and then you can go in there and look at it. One other thing that we do, some banks do, is they actually have an account that multiple people share. And a lot of times you may have one email for like loan operations, and they want everything back and forth through that email, regardless if it's Susan or Ted or whoever using it. So you do have the ability to use centralized accounts with Botdoc as well for that very situation.